For the second time in 7 years, two teams from the Southeastern Conference will meet for the national championship. The number 3 ranked Georgia Bulldogs will take on number 4 Alabama Crimson Tide in the 2018 College Football Playoff National Championship. The game kicks off tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern from the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta, Georgia. Alabama will be led by head coach Nick Saban and quarterback Jalen Hurts. Georgia will be led by head coach Kirby Smart and quarterback Jake Fromm. Here with us is Bill Reiter, who's the host of Reiter Than You, to talk about all of this. Of course, I'm not surprised that Alabama is playing every year, right? But what do you make of this game?
I mean, it's going to be an incredible game. I know it's very frustrating for non-SEC fans that 2 SEC schools are represented in the national championship game, but this is why we have the playoff now. These are the best 2 schools, and Nick Saban and his Crimson Tide have a huge challenge. They're the favorite. They should be, but that Georgia running game is so vicious and so brutal. They're going to have to really stack the box and see if they can make that freshman quarterback beat them.
And what about the home field advantage? Will Georgia have a significant one, you think?
I think it'll be very significant. Now, Tuscaloosa's not that far, and Alabama fans are, I think the technical definitional term is crazy. Yes. So what I've heard is that there's a lot of roll tide are rolling into Georgia to try to offset some of that, but the ticket prices are exorbitant because, yeah, there's a lot of Georgia fans. I think it's going to be minor Georgia advantage crowd-wise, but from what I've heard from folks around the ground right now, it's just going to be a raucous environment.
And what about the sidelines? We have such an interesting head coach, assistant coach, former assistant coach dynamic going on. Who's at the advantage, the teacher or the former student?
The teacher is very much at the advantage, and if history is any guide, he's going to make Kirby Smart look like a child and like a student, because Nick Saban is 11-0 when he's faced former assistants, and that's in a range of games. This is a national championship game, and to add to that, Kirby Smart really got outcoached in the first half of last week's game against Lincoln Riley in Oklahoma. Now he made up for it, and they won in that double overtime thriller. But there's a learning curve for young coaches. Kirby Smart, his second year as a head coach, I think it's definitely advantage, huge advantage, Nick Saban.
So it sounds like you're favoring Bama.
Yeah, Vegas has them as 4-point favorites. I think that sounds exactly right. It's 2 great teams. Feels a lot like the Crimson Tide are going to roll all the way to a national championship.
It will be a fun game to watch for sure. All right, let's turn to the pros. It was an exciting start to the NFL playoffs. Which games did you enjoy the most?
There were a couple. I thought Saints-Panthers was a great football game, and those looked like 2 teams that are good enough to win and earn their way to Minneapolis and maybe a Super Bowl championship. Obviously, only one of them could win. I know Cam Newton didn't get the outcome he wanted. He put up a gritty performance. New Orleans finds a way to win it. I think that's a huge game because they've got that running game, that defense. Drew Brees, a Hall of Famer. Just a great game. But you have to also point to, I think, in another NFC game, Atlanta going into Los Angeles, that Falcons team that was heartbroken in the Super Bowl last year when they coughed up a huge, historic second-half lead. They had a lead going to the second half. The Falcons win against that young Rams team, I think, was really exciting and really impressive.
But Falcons are 6th seeded, right? Is that right? And do they have any chance going up against the number 1 seeded Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles?
I think they have a huge, Atlanta fans rejoice. You've got Nick Foles, who's the quarterback, not Carson Wentz. Wentz is injured. Interestingly, the Falcons are favored in this game, even though they're on the road, because that Eagles team, not the same without their starting quarterback. In history, over the last 10, 11 years, 3 teams of the last ones in have actually gone on to win the Super Bowl. The Giants, the Steelers, and the Packers. I think the Falcons have a real chance, and Vegas has them after Minnesota as the second most likely team in the NFC to win the Super Bowl.
So the Eagles can't rest on their laurels for a second here.
I'm sorry, Eagles fan. I think you guys are in big trouble. It's been a great season. I think it's going to be Atlanta.
All right, Bill Reiter, thank you so much for that.